Welcome back, apes, to part 2 of our introduction to environmental science. To start things off, I'd like you all to answer these questions in the space provided. There are actually very few basic needs for life. Things like clean water, food, shelter, and yes, relationships. Here are some facts. In a harsh environment like extremely cold weather, without shelter, you may not survive much longer than 3 hours. Without water, maybe 3 days. But you can make it an incredible 3 weeks without food. So make sure you've got water. The rest listed here are just things we in the developed world and those with money take for granted. That cell phone all of you carry once did not exist and is not a necessity for life. I know it's shocking. So these are some of the things we'll be doing in this class. Taking this course is important because it combines everything that you've learned so far in high school and applies it to your actual life. You will someday have to make decisions related to some of these concepts you'll learn in this class. That's the reason I became a teacher, to make you aware and help you make those decisions later. After this course, you might be motivated to do some of these things, though mostly you'll want to be protecting an area that you live in or protecting your environment in general. So how do we affect the environment? We literally change the landscape, from building cities to removing mountains. We remove forests to plant crops, which can lead to soil erosion and create pollution. Over the years, we've hunted species or displaced them to the point of leading to their extinction. Here is an example of this picture of passenger pigeons. They were hunted to extinction back in the early 1900s, late 1800s. Part of that displacement of species has to do with our development and technology, like building these underground tunnels for the subway. Electricity and how it is generated is a huge development in technology and has sparked big debates. Because things are changing so fast with technology, organisms and the environment must adapt or they die. And the ever-increasing size of our population doesn't help the matter. So how do we know there are environmental issues to begin with? We use indicators, which help identify changes in environmental health. We'll go through each one of these indicators throughout this PowerPoint. So the first one, the loss of biodiversity, is a big one. There are 3 levels of biodiversity. Evolution happens at the genetic level. If this lacks diversity, then organisms like the cheetah will not be able to adapt and survive. The overall number and different types of species are also declining. We are currently going through a global mass extinction. Approximately 2,000 species go extinct each year. And lastly, to provide for the billions of organisms on this planet, there needs to be a variety of habitats and ecosystems. If the health of those habitats decline, we can start to see ecosystem collapse, as is happening with many of our coral reefs, where 40% of our ocean life relies upon. We're also seeing a decline in food production. Even though worldwide production of food has increased, it doesn't keep up with the demand of our growing population. There are also localized declines in productivity, and that mostly has to do with things like climate change, which California is going through a severe drought that has lasted nearly 10 plus years. How we use our grain. Mexico is extremely upset with us because we're using our corn for biofuels in our cars, which increases those prices for them. And then, of course, there's soil degradation. So let's go back and think about what we've learned so far. Answer these questions to the best of your knowledge. So some other indicators include the relationship between increasing carbon dioxide gases and rising global temperatures, which also has a direct correlation with the beginning of the Industrial Revolution. This issue can lead to all other problems that we've already listed. And since our population has been growing exponentially since the early 1900s, we have required and used more and more of our natural resources, such as oil, and have been depleting them. We have completely run out of copper in the United States. Oil only has approximately 50 more years. And all of these resources are shared. Think about this. The United States, China, and USSR have all been to the moon. What if we found out that there is oil there and we all equally had ownership of it? What do you think the United States would try to do with that resource? Garrett Hardin developed the idea of the tragedy of the commons to answer that particular question. Of course, the United States would try to consume as much of it before the others did. If they don't consume those resources, then the others will. Then all of the oil is consumed because of its competition for it. That's the idea behind tragedy of the commons. Here's another example. Many of you like sushi. Many of you just really like tuna. Because of our advances in technology, it's allowed us to catch and consume more fish. So much so that the bluefin tuna has already gone extinct in places like the Black Sea and the Caspian Sea. Numbers are even declining in the Atlantic Ocean. So what do we do about this? We should be developing sustainable practices. Sustainability is living within our means, so in the example before, tuna do not go extinct completely. An example of sustainable practices is how we recycle iron. Since we've started converting it into steel, it's become a hot commodity. But we're running out. So instead, we'll use other materials like carbon fiber, which is actually stronger than steel, or we recycle it instead of extracting more ore. Unfortunately, though, what we're doing now to conserve is not good enough. We are still, as a whole, using 125% of the Earth's resources. That's our footprint, the mark we leave on Earth. So to finish up, what I'd like you to do is think about this question. What sustainable practices could we use in our everyday lifestyle to improve or reduce our ecological footprint?